I knew what I was feeling, but I don't think I was able to communicate entirely what I was feeling. Like I knew I had this pittish feeling in my stomach. I knew that I'd be scared to wake up. I didn't want to wake up. I wanted to always, uh, I found sleep. I found comfort in sleep because I felt like that was my escape. Um, and like waking up was a struggle. I didn't enjoy, and in fact, I think that's something I'm still scared of. I don't like the sound of an alarm. Um, so yeah, I think waking up was tough because I didn't want to face a day. So um, it was a lot of effort, I think, to show like everything was okay, because it was not. And I think to keep smiling or to keep giving energy to people around me, to kind of overcompensate, to show that everything was okay or that I was feeling okay, I think was extremely exhausting. Are you experiencing what I'm experiencing? Because this is what I went through.
If the black dog of depression makes you feel like the saddest soul on earth, you're not alone. Around 350 million people share this debilitating but treatable condition. If you're worried about someone, ask if they're okay. If you're not doing so well yourself, ask for help. There is no shame in doing so. The only shame is missing out on life. So get help, be helped, and always hold on to hope.
Mental illness crept up on me when I least expected it. I think most often, or at least in my case, it comes with absolutely no warning signs. And I was going through a phase that, the perception and the general understanding was that I was at a professional high. I'd had successful, consecutive hits professionally at the movies. I was in an amazing relationship. My parents and my sister have always been, extremely supportive of everything that I've done in my life. And so everything that we think should be okay in our life was going more than okay. It was absolutely perfect. And I remember waking up just one morning. I fell, I fainted. There was a complete blackout. I fainted, I hit my head. And I used to live alone at this time. And luckily the house help had arrived. And she saw me lying on the floor and, sort of revived me. And then, I gained consciousness. I sort of slept through the day, got an appointment with a general practitioner, went and saw him. He said, oh, it's nothing. It's probably just exhaustion. Your BP just fluctuated. And that was it. That was sort of the physical symptom. But what I was also experiencing was this sort of hollow, sort of empty, pittish feeling in my stomach. I would break into a sweat. And fortunately, my mother happened to be there a couple of months into this. My parents live in a different city and they had come to visit. And I was sitting in their room and they were packing up and ready to leave. And I had one of those moments where I was just watching her pack. And I suddenly I broke down. And she looked at me and she said, what happened? Is everything okay? And I said, yes, everything was okay, but clearly everything was not okay. And, she asked me the routine questions about, is it my relationship? Is it something at work? And I just kept saying no. And I didn't know what was that one thing? I couldn't point my finger at it. And she immediately looked at me and said, Deepika, I think you need professional help. But at that point, we felt like we wanted to share this with somebody who we could trust. We were concerned about what the media was going to say, and we didn't want to be seen outside a psychiatric clinic. So everything was hush hush. We then, together went to another doctor who finally diagnosed it as clinical depression. And I remember after struggled for so many months of having to go about the motions of doing everything, going about my professional engagements, having to speak at events, having to perform scenes, having to engage with people, having to do all of those things, but actually not being present. I remember feeling a sense of relief that, wow, at least now we know what this is that I was experiencing, because I think that the toughest part in the journey for me was not understanding what I was feeling, or not understanding what I was experiencing, not being able to explain to people what it is that I'm feeling. So if people would say, hey, how have you been? And I would have to lie and say, I've been great, I'm fine. When actually I was not feeling okay, because I didn't have the strength and I didn't have the words to explain to somebody what I was experiencing. And so just the diagnosis in itself, to me, felt like a massive relief. At least now we knew what this was. So I think the two things that we managed to achieve here as a family is, one, the fact that somebody close to me within my family recognized the signs and symptoms. 2, encouraged me to seek help. 3, that I was open to the idea of seeking help. And I accepted the fact that, okay, if our body is sort of susceptible to illness, so can the mind. And I think that's when I understood the importance of the mind and the body, and understanding that in the same way that we take care of our physical health, it's equally important for us to take care of our emotional health, our mental health. It is during that time, I realized that there was a lot of stigma, there was a lot of hush-hush, there was a lot of not wanting to share with too many people what I was experiencing. And I think all of those experiences made me reflect on why we was behaving, including myself, why we were behaving a certain way. Why was I not telling somebody that, I'm not feeling okay emotionally? Why is it that I was seeking professional help privately? Why was I not confident enough to do this publicly and with people spotting me? That's okay. And I think that's when I realized the stigma and the lack of awareness that's associated with mental health and mental illness. And that's what led me to come out publicly with my experience with anxiety and clinical depression, and subsequently setting up the Live, Love, Laugh Foundation, because through that process, I felt like, through an interview or through the press or through the foundation, if I was able to express the signs and symptoms that I experienced, and if there was even one person in this room who identified with those signs and symptoms and said, you know what, I'm going through the exact same thing, but I've not been able to put a finger on what it is that I'm going through, I wanted to help somebody. I think it's very important to understand the difference between sadness and depression. Sadness is something that we all go through in our lives for various reasons: death, failure in an exam, heartbreak. I think sadness is transient. Depression is not transient. I think depression sort of lasts for a much longer period of time. And I think that's when you realize that, okay, this is where I need to share, this is where I need to express. For someone who's experiencing that, I think it's important at that very moment to share with somebody that you're close to. It could be a friend, it could be a colleague, it could be a family member, it could be a sibling. But I think the first step really is to share with somebody around you how you're feeling. There is a lot of stigma, especially in our countries, with regards to seeking professional help. Parents do not want to take their children to counselors or to psychiatric treatment because they're concerned about what other family members will think. They're concerned about what society will think. I've come across situations where there are people experiencing mental illness who want to seek help, but somewhere the family is not willing to allow them to do that. And sometimes it's the other way around, where the parents want their children to seek professional help and the child is resistant to that. I wanted every person experiencing mental illness to know that they are not alone. Because what happens is you always feel like you're fighting that battle alone. Because unlike other illnesses, unlike a lot of other illnesses, there are no obvious physical signs or symptoms. It's all in your mind most of the time. And so if I met someone who's sitting here experiencing depression, I most probably, unless I'm a professional, will not be able to tell in this room who is experiencing depression. And you sort of end up feeling like you put a lot of pressure on yourself and you feel like you're the only one going through this. It comes with a lot of guilt. You start feeling like, why is this happening to me? When the reality actually is that, and the statistics vary, 1 in 3, 1 in 4, 1 in 5 people experience depression once in their lifetime. You are not alone is to reach out to people, reach out to the youth, to reach out to adolescents and tell them that they are not alone in this journey. But if there's one message that I really want to drive home is that there is hope. If there's one thing that sort of drove me every morning to wake up and fight the illness, is that I saw hope. There were days that I wanted to give up, but I think somewhere it was hope every day that would push me to the next day. And I kept saying, okay, this is going to pass, this is going to pass.
When we as Indians imagine ourselves a certain way, how the world looks at us, I think we think of ourselves as this raucous, can-do democracy. And some of us may be shocked to discover that while we are all of that, we are also the most depressed country in the world. I'm not sure how many of you actually knew that. Because when I discovered it, it was a real revelation to me. That 36% of us as Indians are or will be depressed at some point in our lives. 371 people at last count, 371 Indians kill themselves every day. That was approximately more than 134,000 people kill themselves every year in India. And yet, the irony is that we continue to see depression and mental health issues as some sort of self-indulgence, as some sort of problem of the rich and famous, as not really where the priority of science and medicine should be.